There are moments in life when you say yes without fully knowing why, just a gut feeling, a quiet nudge from the universe that tells you something bigger is at play. For Henry Jacobs, a 34-year-old ex-corporate drone from Chicago, that moment came in the form of a wrinkled newspaper ad and a phone call he almost didn't return. Ranch for sale, $1. Terms, none. Must see in person. Most people would have laughed. But Henry, newly divorced and freshly burned out, wasn't most people, not anymore. He had traded a corner office for silence, sold his condo for cash, and now wandered the Midwest in a beat-up pickup with nothing but a backpack, a toolbox, and a camera he hadn't used since college. The ranch was in Wyoming, just outside a near-dead town called Larkspur Ridge. The man who met him there was in his 80s, with hands like knotted rope and eyes that had seen too much. He didn't offer pleasantries, just a rusted key and a nod. You got 5 minutes. It's yours if you want it. Henry stepped inside what looked more like a forgotten memory than a home. Dust blanketed everything. Sunlight streamed through cracked windows. The air smelled of cedar and something else, like old stories begging to be heard. He didn't make it past the living room before deciding. Something in the creak of the wood beneath his feet, the way the land stretched endlessly around the house like open arms, it felt like possibility. I'll take it, he said, almost surprising himself. The old man handed him a dollar bill, asked for one in return, and smiled. Welcome home. It wasn't until his second night that he realized he wasn't alone. He'd been fixing a broken hinge on the back door when he heard it, soft humming, a melody drifting down from the loft above the barn. Curious but cautious, he followed the sound, half expecting to find a radio left on or maybe a bird trapped in the rafters. Instead, he found a girl. 17, maybe 18. Thin as a rail, with long, tangled hair and wary eyes. She stopped humming when she saw him, her fingers still resting on the neck of an old guitar. You're not supposed to be here, she said flatly. Henry blinked. I bought the ranch. She stared at him, then looked away like she didn't believe it, or didn't care. Name's June, she said after a long pause. I've been here a while. How long is a while? Long enough. She wouldn't say much more that night. Just picked up her guitar and slipped through the slats in the barn wall like a shadow. Henry didn't follow. He didn't even know what to think. But something in her voice, in the way she didn't flinch but didn't trust either, stuck with him. Over the next few days, he saw her now and then, drifting through the fields like a ghost, collecting water from the creek, disappearing before he could get a real word in. She didn't ask for food, but sometimes he'd leave a can of beans or a sandwich near the barn. Most mornings, it would be gone. Henry started asking around in town. Larkspur Ridge wasn't much, a diner, a gas station, and a hardware store that doubled as the post office. The townsfolk were kind, in a quiet, guarded way. When he asked about the ranch, most shrugged. When he asked about June, something in their eyes shifted. There was a girl, the waitress at the diner finally said. Parents died in a car wreck when she was 10. She was passed around. Foster homes. Ran away, I think. Some folks said she went back to the ranch, but nobody knew for sure. That was years ago. Henry felt a weight settle in his chest. She'd been living there alone. Surviving winters, droughts, coyotes. A kid forgotten by the world. Back at the ranch, he found her sitting on the porch one evening, legs crossed, strumming that same haunting melody. You don't have to hide, he said gently. You live here. I just didn't know. She didn't look up. It wasn't supposed to be yours. Henry sat beside her. Maybe it wasn't. But now that it is, maybe we figure it out together. For a while, they sat in silence. Just the wind and the slow rhythm of her guitar. Why'd you buy it? She asked finally. He thought for a long moment. I think I was looking for something real. Something that didn't want anything from me. She smirked. Bad breakup? He laughed softly. Something like that. It wasn't instant, but something shifted between them that day. June didn't vanish anymore. She stayed close, helped him mend fences, taught him how to listen to the land, when to plant, when to watch the sky. In turn, he brought her books from town, taught her how to cook more than just beans, set up solar panels so she could have light and music. It was the quiet kind of companionship, two people who had been broken in different ways, building something new without even realizing it. One night, during a thunderstorm, she broke. They were sitting in the living room. Her curled in an old quilt, him nursing a cup of tea, when the power flickered and the thunder cracked like the world splitting open. I used to be afraid of storms, she whispered, voice trembling. Back when my mom would sing to me. After the crash, nobody sang. Not ever again. Henry didn't speak. He just listened, his heart aching. They told me I'd be better in the system. That I'd get help. But all I got were locks on doors and people who didn't care. So I ran. I came back here because I thought maybe my parents would find me if I stayed. That they'd know. Tears slipped down her cheeks, unbidden and raw. You survived, he said softly. And now, you're not alone. She leaned into him then, her body shaking. He wrapped an arm around her, not to fix her, not to save her, just to be there. Spring brought wildflowers and something like peace. Together, they repaired the barn, planted a garden, painted the house. June began writing songs, real ones, full of pain and hope. Henry sent one to a friend back in Chicago who worked in music. The reply was immediate, she's got something. Real. Raw. Bring her in. When he told June, she stared at him, eyes wide. Me? In a city? You don't have to. But if you want to share your voice, your story, it could help others. You could be heard. She didn't say yes. Not right away. But 3 weeks later, she handed him a backpack and her guitar and said, let's go. Chicago was overwhelming. Skyscrapers. Noise. Strangers. But June stood tall. She recorded a song. Then another. Then 6. They called it Dust and Rain. It wasn't a hit, but it didn't have to be. It was honest. And that was enough. A few months later, a nonprofit asked if she'd speak, about her journey, about foster care, about surviving. She said no at first. Then maybe. Then yes. Her first speech was shaky. Her voice cracked. But when she looked up and saw a girl in the front row, eyes shining with the same kind of silent pain she used to carry, something in her heart broke open. She kept going. Talking. Singing. Telling the truth. Henry stayed by her side. He didn't manage her. Didn't push. Just supported. Quietly. Fiercely. Like a lighthouse in fog. One night, after a show in Nashville, June looked at him and said, "You know what you did?" He raised an eyebrow. "You saw me. When no one else did. You didn't try to fix me. You just stayed." He swallowed hard. "You did the rest." She smiled. "I think we both did." They went back to the ranch that fall. The house was still there. The land, golden and waiting. They didn't need much, just each other, and the space to keep growing. June started a program for runaway youth. Gave them music. A place to rest. A way forward. She called it the Porchlight Project. Henry built cabins. Planted more trees. Took photos again. This time of laughter, new beginnings, second chances. And every so often, when the sun set just right, they'd sit on that porch, two souls the world almost forgot, and hum that same soft melody. A reminder that even broken things can bloom again, given time, kindness, and the courage to stay.